All right, we got almost all the check marks going. Let's get it in here. One of these days, I'm gonna hit the Colts ones. There's no doubt about it. I'm just gonna look. Hello,
We
Colts
can talk some
fans.
Colts, that's for sure.
Two of my best friends are Colts fans. Grew up. My next door neighbor married Bob Sanders, and I was a big fan of Dallas Clark growing up. So pretty surprising I didn't end up a Colts fan, all things considered. But here I am, Broncos, and here you guys are, Broncos for breakfast. It is 7:00, 7:30 Mountain Time. I'm just waking up. The dog had his snip yesterday, so I slept out on the couch with him, and he was pretty restless because of that. So I didn't get the best sleep, but I'm here. I'm doing well, and I'm excited to talk some Broncos and get everything back on the right track for this Denver Broncos team. And Scott, what do you got there? What's that? What's that glorious piece of
See, you
merchandise?
blew it. I was actually going to buy one of these for the first person that said something about it, but my
Ah,
Broncos for breakfast mug has arrived.
ah, it's glorious.
Looks good. It's clean. It's nice and clean.
It is nice and
Um,
clean.
Unfortunately, I'll basically rinse out my mug and use it for a month. And when it's white on the inside, you realize how gross that is.
Yeah, well, gonna have to just get a subscription to the Broncos for breakfast mugs. Mine is in the mail along with the hat, so it should be getting here soon. Look, did you get the 11 ounce or the 8 ounce?
I got the 15 ounce.
15, excuse me. It's 11 or 15.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's still not enough. I had to bring my press with me, so we'll be going secondary pours here shortly at Broncos for breakfast.
I got the smaller one because I thought it looked a little cleaner, but I regretted it almost after as soon as I hit pay. But that's okay. I'll just have to get a second cup after that. But good morning, everybody. This is obviously Broncos for breakfast. I'm joined by Scott Kennedy as always. You can find him on Twitter at Scout Kennedy, and I'm Nick Kendall. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Kendall MHH. Also follow us at Huddle Up Pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you guys like the mug, the hat should be coming in soon too, so I can be rocking that, which will be great for how much Hawkeye black I wear, that Broncos for breakfast logo with the black. It's pretty great. You can find all that at huddleuppod.com. Get your swag on, as Chad likes to say. Guys, if you're joining us on Facebook, please join us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. At me on there too if you want to get into something. If there's something I said on the show or something Scott said on the show, tag us and be like, okay, this didn't really sit right with me because XYZ. Let's talk about it. This is a community. I know Scott and I are the guys with the cameras in front of us for God knows what reason. But for me, at least, a face for radio, right? But if you guys have anything like that, hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on Twitter, and we'll talk. We love talking ball.
Yeah,
If you guys,
I had a doing rankings and stuff. Someone asked me one time on a message board, said, "Well, who are you accountable to?" Just because we're not general managers, we're not the coaches. I was like, well, we're still accountable to you. We're accountable. You're taking your time and putting forth your time, effort, and resources to listen to us. We're accountable to you. So if there's something that you wanna ask us about, clarification, anything like that, let us know. I love the interaction. That's the main reason I do it. This is basically how I'm social. Otherwise, I'm not social. So this gets me out and about a little bit, sort of.
yeah, absolutely. So please, yeah, hit us up on here. And we also always appreciate the chat going strong. Super chats, superstars, super stickers or not. We appreciate you guys joining us in the morning. If you guys are joining us on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and share. And also go to Scott's channel at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy, where Scott and I have been talking every Wednesday morning a little bit of Falcons and just NFL in general. And with the way the Falcons are trending, maybe we'll get into the draft pretty quickly, especially if they lose to the Jets.
Real quickly, quarterback, edge rusher, they need help everywhere. And we got a little lucky yesterday talking about, Stephon Gilmore. I know he was when you're the Denver Broncos, you've got cap money like that. Any of those high profile guys that come off and become available are interesting. But we talked yesterday morning about who made sense to us, and it did. Sometimes it just makes sense. And we said at 10 o'clock yesterday morning that Stephon Gilmore to the Panthers made sense.
You
And
did. Don't give me credit.
sometimes when it makes sense, it happens. So we got a little lucky with that one yesterday.
Yeah, we'll take it. I thought for sure he was Tampa bound, but I don't think Tampa was one of those approved teams. Apparently, that they worked out a deal for. So if he was a free agent, who knows? But got traded for a 6, and just goes to show you, former defensive player of the year, had an injury, over 30 years old at the cornerback position, 6th-round pick. That's
Well, it was 6 or nothing.
Yeah,
But is what that one boiled down to. So that wasn't, that's not an apples and apples comparison to what it takes to pry somebody away from a team that doesn't want to lose him. That was a either we get a 6 or we're going to have to cut him. We're going to cut him over. He's leaving. Can we get anything for him? And getting a 6, getting his money off the books, that was important because then they turn around and sign Jamie Collins. But we digress. There's several actual Broncos questions in here. See, Nick and I like to. That's why we can get away with being on different pods. We like the overall grand scheme of things. But let's get back to the Broncos.
Yeah, let's get into the chat here. Let's see everybody joining us today. Right now, we got 44 eyeballs in here. I know it's early, but hopefully that number will pick up. But we appreciate all 44 of you who are in here, according to my numbers here. And the likes coming in, too. We got heart from Dave Gassman and Greg Smith. Aloha, Greg. Aaron Johnson's liked it. Lewis Roybal, Joseph Fisher, Scott Kennedy Sports. Hey, Scott, thanks for liking it. And Tony Perez. Thank you guys very much. EJ's in here saying good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. US Dave saying good morning from Broncos country from Southern Arizona. Ooh, the hot season. It's starting to get cold up here in the Pacific Northwest. It's way colder than it typically is, apparently. So I don't know. Hiking season might be coming to a close for me. Jeremy Sean, good morning, boys. Good morning to you, Jeremy. Falling Sloth, great to see you. DBA's in the house as well. Oh, the chat just jumped on me. That's great. Good morning, everybody. Hope all is well. Hope you're doing well, too. We got Shai Vargas coming in saying, any updates on Teddy Bridgewater?
Yeah, we'll hit that one quick. I know Shai's very concerned on that one for sure. He's hit it. This one, I can almost see him. It's like, come on, we got to get to this. What's going on with Teddy? Unfortunately, we don't have a ton of news on him because he's in concussion protocol, and it is out of the Broncos' hands. That becomes an independent. And I agree with this, honestly. When you're dealing with head injuries, you take it out of the team's hands, and it becomes to someone who doesn't have they don't have any skin in the game on this. They're looking out for Teddy's best interest because the players won't always look out for their best interest, and we know the teams won't always look out for the players' best interest. So you need somebody to step in and say you're either ready, you're either good to go or not. And that's where he is right now. He's still in concussion protocol, but there is a chance that he could be good to go on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll know for sure until Friday. But the Broncos, it does seem like it's trending that way where he will play. Now, things can change. We said the same thing late last week where it's like, okay, it sounds like Reisner's going to play. Yoink. Quinn Miners played. And actually, I thought he held himself pretty well. But the Bridgewater stuff, I did think it was interesting that Mike Tomlin in the press conference said, we're preparing for Teddy Bridgewater. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's another shot at Drew Lock from somebody from the AFC North. Well, I think right now you should prepare for Bridgewater, but it could be either.
I don't think everybody around the country has the obsession with Drew Lock that some people think that they do. Most people don't care about Drew Lock. Yeah, frankly, they just don't.
Do something. Yep.
Yeah. No offense, but they just don't care about Drew Lock. It's not something that crosses their mind. So I'm going to think about Drew Lock today. It doesn't happen around most of the country.
Yeah, maybe in Missouri. But US Dave's in here too. Dave Glassman with the hearts. Thank you so much.
The hearts and stars. So Dave coming in with the hearts and stars. Appreciate that.
We got Jeremy saying Teddy might practice today. We got Sunny Days coming in here. I like the Sunny Days. With a thumbs up. Robot of Doom. Haven't seen you in a bit over on Twitch. Morning to you, Robot of Doom. Very good to see you. Shai also saying, do you think Teddy Bridgewater will come back this weekend? Yes, we do. I do. At least we'll see though. Mark Lindemode. Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Great to see you. KB82, good morning. Should we sign David DeCastro like we signed Evan Mathis a few years back to help out the O-line, who is 30th in pressure allowed? It sounds like DeCastro's injuries are serious and detrimental, and I don't think he is coming back to play, unfortunately. I also will say that the pressure allowed is very much... That's a quarterback stat as much as it is an offensive line stat. And while Teddy Bridgewater has been really good under pressure so far this season, he has been hanging back and tough in the pocket more than the average quarterback. And that's creating more raw pressure data against
trust himself to get out of that mess.
Yes,
trust himself to get out of the pressures.
Yep, exactly. So while the Broncos' pass rush or pass blocking has not been amazing by any accounts, I do think the 30th in pressure allowed doesn't tell the whole story, because I do think that from what I've seen, Teddy's holding on to the ball longer and inviting that pressure by being more aggressive in the pocket. And that just results in a higher pressure count. Now, that doesn't mean the actual Broncos are getting beat at the rate. I think the Broncos are actually in pass blocking win rate in the top third in the NFL, even after that Ravens game. So a little bit of nuance there to that one. It would take probably a full season sample size and going through the all 22 to really break that down to say for sure. But it does. I think that 30th is not truly indicative of what's going on.
And real quick, Nick, before we get to just finish up matters of business as we say hello, I want to kill two birds with one stone here and remind everybody that the competition
Hmm.
raffle this year is again 250,000 stars on Facebook. It is for a Pat Surtain jersey. We after yesterday we were about 13% with 20% of the 13% of goal with 20% of the month gone. So we're behind in order to get there. But the stars are rolling in today. So
Yeah.
I mentioned Dave. David Crespin comes in. This one was important enough for him to come in with some nice stars, saying Vic
Thank you,
Fangio is
David.
no coach. They need to move on from him. We will not win with him and his coaching staff. Nick, what do you think?
I mean, there is something to be said, and we talked about it, I think Tuesday night or Tuesday morning. I don't know. The days all run together when we do enough
Yesterday,
shows. It was yesterday on Wednesday. Okay, I don't even know. But Vic
Tuesday.
Fangio, um, he's starting to come off to me more as a just focus on the scheme and whatnot, and not really the CEO personality type. And there's no question about it. There's people who in the organization that have sources that's like Vic Fangio isn't the most beloved in the Broncos locker room now. If you win and you're amazing and you build an amazing organization, that doesn't really matter that much. Like, I don't know if Nick Saban is the most loved person by every single player and whatnot, or definitely not Bill Belichick. You don't have to be buddy and buddy to be a good coach, but if you're not able to push the right buttons, connect with the players, motivate the players as well. I mean, even Justin Simmons yesterday took a small shot. I was like, okay, well, I'm listening to that. He said, this week we definitely need to come out with more energy in practice than we've seen as of late. And that falls on the coaching staff. I mean, the players as well, they're grown men. You have to be able to motivate yourself. But like coaches, you got to push the right buttons. And I don't know if Vic can do that from a personality perspective.
So when I ran a newsroom in New York with a bunch of kids about your age, you're a little. They were younger. They were coming right out of school and stuff. And I had a list of sports movies. I'm like, these are must watches. These are your homework assignments. You need to watch these movies because they're going to be referenced all the time. Well, one of my favorite lines from one of my favorite movies that sums up this situation to me right now is from Bull Durham. And Crash Davis holds up, Nuke's sandals and says, "You've got fungus on your shower shoes. If you win 20 in the show, the press will call you colorful. Until you win 20 in the show, it means you're a slob." So when you're winning, all of that gets glossed over.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not, you come off looking petty and insecure. And right now, it's the latter,
Yep.
unfortunately. Dave, appreciate the stars. Lawrence came in with some stars too. So why haven't the Broncos been picking up anybody worthy that can come in and start after we lost 9 starters?
I think a big reason is this Broncos team is in a weird position where they have cap space, but you also have a lot of guys who are about to get paid. And if you're spending that money right now, that means you're not going to have it to carry over next year. It's not like, some people like with vacation days or with sick days where the year's up and they don't carry over. This cap money carries over. So what you spend right now could limit you bringing back Tim Patrick, could limit you bringing back Von Miller, could limit you bringing back Cortland Sutton, could limit you bringing in an Aaron Rodgers type. Those all really matter. So I think the Broncos, even though they have cap space, I think there is reason for penny pinching in that regard. Also, there's no question about it. I know that some people push back, but then I talk to people. I wouldn't say it's off the record, but I'm not supposed to like say who they are. But like, yeah, the Broncos are not in a great cash situation until the new ownership situation is resolved. They just don't have the liquid currency to pay these guys as much as they can. They're not like, the Raiders are right now. I don't want to put, they're in trouble with the stadium and whatnot. That was a big reason for the Khalil Mack trade. But I
So
don't think the Broncos are bringing in, Jalen Smith or whatever.
no, I think it's interesting that you can carry that over instead of, treating it like a government program where if you don't spend it, you lose it. So it's
Yeah.
nice that you can actually be frugal and be rewarded for it. So I
Yeah.
certainly appreciate it. Travis came in with some stars
Ah,
also. Says, "Good morning, Nick and Scott. Getting ready for the Steelers. I feel if Shermer can stay true to the run game,
God, yeah.
no matter if it's Lock or Teddy and solid defense, we go away." For those who are listening on the pod after the fact, I cross my fingers because it says crossing my fingers for Travis. If it's Lock or Teddy and solid defense, we go away and win.
I have a question for you, a football question. And Travis, thank you so much. Travis and I go back pretty far. We're in a pretty, actually, like a small Facebook group that's a pretty awesome community there that dates back to like when I was in high school. So shout out to Travis. Thank you for joining us this morning. Hope you're doing well. Um, the Broncos fell off in the run game in the second half of the Ravens game, correct? I mean, everybody knows that was at 4 rush attempts in the second half. Something that I think it was Fangio mentioned leading into it was way back in preseason not that long ago, but long ago when how much has happened between now and then, where he talked about Teddy being able to get into the right run checks and based on the look and whatnot. Do you think that this is an issue where Pat Shurmur maybe gave multiple options and the look pre-snap was okay? If this is the look, Drew, make sure you get into the right run check. If there's this many guys in the box or this many guys in the down lineman, and Drew did not get to that, or they didn't give him that flexibility and responsibility, because I know that's a big part of Teddy's game with the pre-snap ability to get into a run check.
Well, I think that Drew feels comfortable throwing the ball.
Yeah,
So if you're coming out, I mean, basically, if you're coming out in a 4 wide or a 4 receiver set and you're in the shotgun, you're passing.
yeah,
You're for the most part, you're going to feel like with that many receivers out there, that many options, I can find somebody to go to. So now, if he's checking out of a run to a pass, now I have concerns. But I don't think that was necessarily the case. But I don't know for sure. Saying hello to some other in the chat. Aloha, Greg. Want to hear another one? Another first time. Aunt Thomas coming in. So I've been listening, a little over a year on Spotify. So happily I caught live to send stars. Well, we appreciate it too. How is our D line looking against the depleted Steelers O line?
this is the week, man. I think I said this on Tuesday morning where it's like, okay, everybody watched the Ravens game. Holy cow, the Broncos pass rush looked anemic, scary anemic. But I think it's because Lamar Jackson and that Greg Roman offense that Baltimore runs really they neuter you. You can't play it normally. And Von Miller after the game said we're excited to play a normal offense again. You have to be so disciplined in your run. It's a big reason I love the height, weight, speed, length, power edge rushers because they can just push through a guy in Indiana Jones, pass rush you, and that's the way you have to beat Lamar. But against Big Ben, who is, used to be a pretty good athlete back there, especially with how big he is, but he slowed down a bunch, has the hip injury now. Is he even going to play? I think we should expect it, but we'll see. And then the Steelers offensive line that is just dreadful. Just absolutely dreadful. This is a week where the Broncos defensive line should be able to pin their ears back and get a little bit of confidence. And while it's, of course, part of it's because of the competition, but they're going to look much better this week. So I'm excited about this Broncos defensive line versus the Steelers offensive line. That being said, the Steelers defensive line versus our offensive line makes me a little weary as well. So strength versus strength, or strength versus weakness there on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, the Green Bay Packers kind of bullied the Steelers offensive line. They were getting a lot of pressure with just 4 guys.
Yeah.
One of the right guard, Trey Turner. I was like, ooh, that right guard looks kind of rough. The first turnover, he just got bullied straight backwards. And I look back, I'm like, well, that's Trey Turner. 4-time Pro Bowler just 2 years ago. But he's also on his third team in 3 years, and there might be something to that. I don't know if it was an injury that has cost him or whatnot, but he's not the same guy that was a 4-time Pro Bowl guard earlier right now. And yes, and Big Ben was more of a Dan Marino type as far as not getting sacked. Dan Marino was one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the NFL in his day, and he's maybe the most immobile quarterback in his day. And it was because, 1, he's smart, 2, he's big and strong, and 3, he had a lightning quick release. They'd say he threw the ball out of his ear hole. So he was almost impossible to sack. You've got a stationary target right now in Ben, and he's going to go down a little bit easier. The release is slowed down a little bit. He's still super dangerous. Don't get me wrong. Just like we talked about last week with Lamar, you can't scheme against those guys dropping passes or him missing wide open receivers. You got to make sure you're disciplined in that because they're professionals. That's not going to keep happening. Yep. But you got a stationary target. Now you can pin your ears back and go. Now you can have Von Miller just say, go. You don't have to worry about containment because he's not going to escape the pocket and beat you for 40 yards like Lamar Jackson is. So with Lamar, you cast a net, and it's not a hard pass rush. Lamar gets sacked a lot trying to break pressure and get somebody that's able to fall on him from behind and get him for a 2-3 yard sack before he breaks through. Ben, you're going to get in the pocket. You're going to get your 7-8 yard sacks back there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Big Ben of old used to just make, He-Man plays where like guys would just bounce off of him.
He's an oak tree. He was an oak tree back there. It was crazy.
Maybe even a redwood. He's just an absolute unit. Fun fact, Iowa Hawkeye fact of the day. Miami, Ohio back in 2003 lost 1 game that regular season. Iowa Hawkeyes, the Big Ben. So Iowa actually had a pretty good streak there of going against some good non-Power 5 quarterbacks. I also went against Josh Allen a couple years ago. Went to that game live in Iowa, smoked him. But that's going to happen with a Power 5 sometimes, especially as good as Iowa. But coming in, Miller 707. I'm so stoked for this Iowa game this weekend. Hopefully, they don't tear my heart out like this Hawkeye team or the Cardinals last night. Ugh, what a heartbreaker.
Shoot, I used to plan my year around Auburn, Georgia. Now I'm not even sure when it's on.
That one you might want to avert your eyes this year. Georgia looks really good. I think they're giving up 4 points a game average, which is insane. Georgia and Alabama had a tier of their own this year.
Well, I've told you the story before. It's 2003. Auburn was top 5 in the country and came out and just laid an egg. It wasn't until their third game that they scored a touchdown. I mean, number 3 in the country. All the talent in the world. We lost our offensive coordinator. That's okay. We're going to have one of his assistants run the system. Yeah, that doesn't work. That was when I realized, I'm not happy when they win and I'm miserable when they lose. I need a new hobby. So that was almost 20 years ago where I was just like, whatever. I'm not pouring my fandom into this. I need a new hobby. So that's when I started pouring myself into, the scouting and evaluation side of things.
So fun. That's my favorite. The process of it, college to draft to NFL, and seeing how all these guys evolve and how they fit. Miller 707 coming in this morning. Good morning to you, champ. I'm more concerned about the offensive line. If our O-line isn't healthy, then our quarterback play isn't going to be good. This is true to an extent. I think if you have a certain level of quarterback, obviously there's a certain level of offensive line where it doesn't even matter. But a competent offensive line, let's say even not bottom 5, with a top 5 quarterback, typically you can be okay there. You're going to lose some games with that, but if you have a great quarterback, you can overcome it sometimes. Like right now, as much as I hate to give this guy praise, Derek Carr is playing behind one of the worst offensive lines he's played behind in his career. And everybody likes to poop on Derek Carr for, being kind of soft, and, getting rid of the ball and whatnot. But the Raiders run game hasn't been good. They're giving it pressure left and right. But Derek Carr is playing as good of ball as he's played in his career. So sometimes a quarterback can overcome that. I'm not sure if Teddy has the arm talent to get it done always with him, especially with the Broncos offensive weapons falling down behind or around him. So I definitely agree. The offensive line needs to step up, play better. And the offensive coordinator or whoever's calling the game plans needs to be a little bit more stubborn with getting the runs going, especially when you're running for plus 5 yards a clip. What are we doing?
And on the other side, I want to hit Richie Riches here. On the interior line. So we're now 4 games in. We're still seeing poor interior defensive line pressure. Is it finally time for the Broncos to put more, perhaps better focus in that position group? That, to me, isn't a matter of players and personnel as it is scheme. In a 3-4,
100%.
You're not supposed to get a ton of pressure from your interior defensive line. Those guys are just supposed to be a wall. You want each one. It's basically a defensive tackle. They don't call them this, but defensive tackle, nose guard. They're 300-pounder guys. You should have almost a half a ton across your line right there. And their job is to occupy all 5 offensive linemen while your outside linebackers come in and do the deed. A healthy Bradley Chubb and a healthy Von Miller, we're seeing what Von can do in this right scheme. You're going to free up your linebackers. So give praise. When you see Von start having a sack and half a game and he finishes with 20 sacks, you need to give some praise to those interior defensive linemen because they're freeing him up. Vaughn's still got to do his thing, but they're freeing up the outside linebackers, the defensive ends in this formation because that's their job. It's a crap job.
Yeah.
It is no fun. I was playing 7-on-7. My kid's big and fast and was watching him do that job. I'm like, that'll pay you a lot of money in the NFL if you can be a 3-4 end or a 3-4 nose guard, but it's kind of boring in 7-on-7 when you're doing that at the same time. So, yeah. But it's a workman's job. It's a blue collar job. And you need to praise those guys if Vaughn's getting his numbers because that means they are doing their job. And their job isn't to pressure the middle.
Yeah, I mean, if you get the all-22, which Game Pass, what the hell are you doing? I've been lucky to be in a chain where somebody's sending me the all-22 every week. But if you focus on Draymond Jones, he's sometimes firing off the ball faster than Von Miller is, which is insane. Now it's a little easier the inside because you can see the ball, you're quicker to the ball. But still, he's firing off. Shelby Harris has not been the pass rushing presence you'd hope, but again, I totally agree with you that I think it's very scheme oriented. Ted Nguyen of The Athletic, who is more of following the Raiders beat, but a really, really good football mind, wrote a piece this past offseason on the Vic Fangio match quarters defense and what he's asking technically from the defensive lineman. And a lot of these guys, you hear people talking one gap versus two gapping scheme, like for your Falcons, putting Grady Jarrett and giving him two gapping responsibility would be an absolute waste. Or we saw it with the Bengals a few years ago in Geno Atkins, right? He was getting 10 plus sacks a year from the interior defensive line. Then they started
From the
doing more two
defensive
gapping.
tackle. Now you drop him in a 3-4 and it probably quiets him down.
Exactly, because he's not playing that single gap. But the Broncos, they kind of do a little bit of hybrid here where it's a 1.5 gap, where you're supposed to pressure one gap, but still have the ability to pull back and get across to the other gap. So maybe cheating a little bit, but I think that because of that, you're not going to see just the pure pressure numbers of the interior defensive line that you would see from a more blitz-oriented team or a more of a one-gapping scheme. And the reason for this is Fangio wants to allocate resources to the back end of the defense. Get more guys in coverage, dropping back. The linebackers can get more depth in, and your defensive line, especially interior defensive line's main job is to totally gum up the run game. And if they can do that, and you can allocate more resources to the defensive back against the past, you should be able to limit the big plays, keep everything in front of you, and just make teams have to execute play after play after play to score touchdowns. So I think
so far you have to say it's working.
Yeah.
It's working. I just I've got the defensive stats up right here in front of me. And Buffalo Bills are number 1 with 44 points given up. Denver's number 2 with 49. And then there's a 2-touchdown gap. My math is probably on to 66 points, 17 points. Difference there to number 3. So if I say the gap between 2 and 3, if I had 17 points, this puts me in 83. The Carolina Panthers are closer to 9 than they are to 2. That's how big the gap is from 2. So to this point, you got to say it's working. Not everybody's going to get numbers. Not everything can work.
Yep.
So in a 3-4, your job is to hold down the guys and let your backers fly to the ball. That's your job. Chris, thank you for the stars, my friend. Yeah, and I can promise you it's on the way. It's coming. I got mine in the mail yesterday. So I think I ordered it. I don't remember exactly when I ordered it, but I got here fairly quick, maybe 4 or 5 days. So Appreciate the stars. Says, patiently waiting for my Broncos for breakfast mug. My concern is I haven't seen a lot of growth in our head coach as a head coach or offensive coordinator or special teams either, for that matter. Nick, you can. I've told you my perspective as an outsider coming in and my thoughts on what came off as petty. You use the word deflection. I've used the word insecure, talking about how that Fangio came off last week after that loss to the Ravens. But I don't have anything to compare that to as far as the growth goes. Where do you think this team is? And is there pretty good merit to Chris's comment here?
I think there is merit, and it's more so like reading between the lines. Like if you're not in the locker room or in the meetings or whatnot, or seeing the interactions, it's pretty hard to say for sure. But you can get vibes from the players and people covering the team that are in there that this team doesn't fully love or is invested in Vic Fangio, the personality. Obviously, there is respect there for what he's done, but I don't know if they fully, buy into him as the motivator. You have Kareem Jackson coming out and they're asking him about the last plays. Like, I don't give a bleep about that. I care about what happened to lead up to that when we got our butts handed to us. Justin Simmons talking about the energy in practice. So there's stuff like that is a little bit concerning. Obviously, it's Vic Fangio's first time as a head coach, even though he's been in the league for a while. And sometimes he's been considered maybe a little bit more of a prickly personality. And that, like you mentioned, that works if you're winning. But if you're losing, it can get a little bit tiresome. So we'll see. I don't think the Broncos are in a position where they've already had 3 wins, and the defense overall has looked pretty good. So it's not like Vic Fangio's on the precipice of being fired after a Steelers loss this week, right? Unless something like terrible happens or he does something terrible. That's probably not happening. But his seat is definitely getting hot. And I was
going to say this could be a question for you. I don't know, 500 is not mathematically possible this year, but let's just say 500 anyway. Does 500 and missing the playoffs get you a new coach next year?
I have such a cop-out answer. It depends on what it looks like. Like if the Broncos, the injuries keep piling up right now, And also with how tough the AFC West is, there needs to be a little bit of context to what that looks like to get there. I do think it is a 10-win or bust season for Fangio, especially with a new general manager here that might want to bring in his own guy.
And see, that's the key to me. You got a
Yeah.
chance. 8
Yep.
and 9, I think you're looking at a new head coach next year.
Yeah, but if, like, let's say everyone knock on wood because this team is so injured already, but like you lose 2 cornerbacks, you lose Von Miller, you lose Teddy Bridgewater, another offensive
The
lineman.
problem though is fans don't care about that. And
Yeah,
if you stick with the same guy again on another losing season, you know who you lose. It's more important than all those guys. The
fans.
fans.
Yeah,
You start losing the fans. And the only thing worse than anger in sports is apathy.
yeah,
And when you're like, here we go again, that is the worst thing that can happen to a team and a franchise is apathy. And you're mad now. You're mad. Mad's okay. Mad, I know I still got you. You care. We can fix mad. I don't care is a lot harder to get back. Now that's not necessarily the case in the NFL, the Denver Broncos. There's a lot of it, but you can see it's like, listen, I'm going to watch the first quarter of this game. Oh God, here we go again. Okay, I'm going to go cut the lawn, rake some leaves, shovel some snow, whatever. I'm not going to go to the game. You start seeing empty seats in Broncos Stadium, all of those type of things. DWI guys coming in here. Run the ball. This isn't rocket science, Pat. And I got a little snicker on that when that came up. I was asked one time on a message board, Scott, why does it bother you so much when people say trust the coaches? I say because trust the coaches is a cop-out answer. Coaches are fallible. Coaches make mistakes. I trust the coaches to do what they think is best. I don't trust them to always make the right decision because they're not gonna. That's insane. I think if they look back at this and self-evaluate yourself and say, we should have run the ball more. I trust that they can learn from their mistakes and get better. I think they made a mistake in the second half of this game. I think it was fairly obvious. And I trust that they're good enough to fix that. Run the ball more.
yep.
DWE guys, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, thank you very much. Obviously, it is a passing league, and if you can't pass the ball at any sort of efficient clip, you're not going to go very far. But you got to be able to read the room, I guess, or see how the game flow is going. And if you're punching them in the mouth with the run game,
with big, powerful backs,
yeah,
it's not like you're running scat backs out there that you're afraid are going to get, even a 1 yard gain is going to tire out the defense some. When I was a kid, I'd hear, oh, this is wearing out the defense. I never got it. I didn't really understand it. Then you look and you say, okay, there's one guy carrying the ball and there's 11 guys trying to tackle him. Yeah, it's much harder to play defense. I get it.
yep.
So, yeah, stick with it. Wear them down.
Yeah, and did you see Brandon Staley's comments about play action in the run game yesterday?
I
Everybody's
did
on
not.
Twitter is going nuts about it. I mean, he's saying stuff that the analytics community and film community have been saying for a bit, where like you don't have to run the ball to have play action effective, but running the ball still matters because the game is physical and there's a physical toll on if you run the ball and you're making the defense play not only hold up physically but play discipline because they have to be able to take on blocks properly. They have to be able to fill the hole and do the proper tackles, and it's going to give your quarterback space. So it's a body blow argument
I was
we've
going to
talked
say
about many times.
the boxing analogy is used constantly. It's
Yep.
used constantly. You want to see that big overhand chin shot that knocks the guy down at once, but the body blows set up that big overhand when you might not be able to get it early. You might be able to get it late when he starts, going down and protecting his ribs. You're wearing those guys out. So if you can run the ball, and I believe the Broncos can. I'm a pretty big fan of Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams. I think the strength of your young, especially last week, interior offensive line with Miners and Muti was going forward, was running the ball, not having them retreat and pass block in a 4-wide set with a shotgun with a quarterback that's coming in cold off the bench.
Yep. Yeah,
and there was y'all were mad. I'm mad.
Yeah, they really put that offensive line in a situation to fail. And I know that like a Broncos offensive line playing bad, but like 4 run snaps for your two offensive linemen at guards who do not have communication or much chemistry with the starters. That's putting your young guys, your pass game, your offense, your run game in a position to fail. So I've been probably an apologist for Shermer, given his scheme can work. I don't think he's the best at melding his scheme to the personnel around him, but if he has the proper personnel, his scheme can work. So we can get into that maybe later.
And scheme doesn't mean anything if your play calling's off.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know, I mean, if you abandon what your core principles, then where are you?
Yep.
You know, we talk about this game as power running, play action, good defense. The defense was okay. I mean,
Yeah.
the defense was okay. If they got a little more help from the offense, they probably don't give up 25 plus points in that game.
10
Uh,
punts. Woof. 10 punts. That's at least they weren't turning it over
yeah,
until the
that's what
last
I
drive.
mean.
But
You want to talk about wearing down a team? We've seen the opposite. Like I said, that the script was flipped. The
yep.
way the Broncos won their first 3 games, they just got beat by it. They got beat
Yep.
by a team that played good defense, ran the ball, and got points when they needed to, even if it wasn't always a touchdown.
Yep. Exactly.
Gary Leeds Palmer
I want to say
coming in
hello
with
to
some
Kalen
stars
real
here,
quick. Happy
and
birthday,
welcome.
Kalen. Kalen's birthday. Just wanted to say happy birthday to him real quick, because it was up there. What's up, fellas? Starting
Oh,
off my
okay.
birthday off.
Sorry.
It's okay. It was just up there, and he's always in here, and we appreciate you, Kaleon. So happy birthday to you, everyone in the chat. Wish Kaleon a happy birthday as well. Okay, now let's get to Gary Leeds Palmer. Sorry about that.
Well, we appreciate you spending your birthday morning with us, Broncos for breakfast, and you got a good long part of your day ahead of you too. If if you're West Coast like Nick is. So Gary, appreciate the stars. And there was one more I want to say because there was a newcomer that came in that was right after. It was Chris. Chris coming in. Chris Beeston. So morning, everyone. I'm late to the party. I appreciate dropping the G on that. You're speaking my language there. So good morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Chris. Good to see you. Better late than never, right? So yeah, let's get into this. We're already 30 minutes in. Also, I want to give a shout out to all the Dodgers fans in here that I saw them giving me a hard time earlier. You guys, what was it, 105 wins this year?
6.
You guys, 106 wins. You guys deserved to not go out in the wild card. Now, would that have been great and poetic for my Cardinals to do that? Yes. Honestly, this is maybe me hating myself a little bit. When Albert Pujols came up, I'm like, okay, if this guy hit a walk-off, I couldn't even be mad because what Pujols did. And he almost did. My God, I wouldn't even have been mad. But that's baseball sometimes, especially in a one-game playoff.
The seeding process is a little screwy
Yeah.
in Major League Baseball. San Francisco Giants, you just won 107 games. That's the most since God knows who knows when. Here's your reward: 106 game, Dodgers. That's what watching the Braves come up. Just texting with my best friend earlier today and last night. It's like, well, 106 plus teams about to go out now. That's what we learned last night.
Yep. Yeah. No. Totally. And thank you everybody for wishing Kayleon a happy birthday. Good to see you. Yeah, it's really nice of you guys to do. Obviously, this is a good community in here. I like to think this is one of the least toxic communities also for the Broncos community. So it's great. And we got Richard coming in from across the pond saying, ordered my mug today. What coach is the worst? What coach is the worst? I mean, it's probably Tom McMahon, right? Like he's the punching bag. Might as well just keep doing body blows to him, talking about body blows. And oh man, Seth coming in too.
Yeah, and Seth coming in too. I wasn't going to answer. I don't have enough of a for Richard's question. I don't have enough data in order to come up and say who's the worst of this bunch. And frankly, I don't like, work in my high school days. You never talked negatives. You'd say he wasn't slow. He just needed. I'd like him to see faster. He wasn't soft. He just needed to be tougher. He wasn't too small. He needs to grow some. I don't like speaking in negatives like that. It's a little bit easier to do that with the pro game because people are used to it some. But I don't want to say who's the worst. I just might say if I was ranking him, he'd be last.
Speaking of
Seth, morning, great pod. Seth, great contributions as always.
Thank you so
morning,
much.
afternoon, and night, Mile High Huddle. We certainly appreciate you being here. Thank you, Seth.
Yeah, thank you so much. We also have a question here from Nick and Scott. Is there a bigger mug option?
Rich, you had to go 15. That was the biggest one I saw. That's why on Broncos for breakfast, I will be bringing this with me and going multiple pours because I need a little more than 15 in the morning to crank me up. I'm more like a 20 to 24 type of person in the mornings.
Yeah, I typically drink about a third of a pot every morning. And
if you're a Starbucks person, I drink 20 to 24 ounces out of a French press, and if I drink a 20 ounce of Starbucks, I'm shaky. There's so much caffeine in those things, it's nuts. So I order a smaller one when I actually go out to get coffee.
And we had a question here from somebody asking about the Broncos moving to Salt Lake City. I'm not sure about that. I have not heard anything about that. I guess if the new ownership comes in, anything is possible. But Denver's got a really, you'd have to build a whole new fan base there, and like you already have the infrastructure in place for the Broncos. So I would be pretty shocked if we saw that. And also, we have something. Jay has some news, I guess. Did you guys hear the news I have yesterday? And people saying congrats. Oh,
Oh, you're a new dad, if I'm not mistaken, Jay. So,
or or
so
he
that's
got
definitely a
engaged.
congrats.
Maybe he got engaged too. I don't know. But either way, congrats, DJ. If you want to spill the beans, talking about all this coffee going on in here, um, uh, then let us know. Yes, we asked two things. But okay, back to the Steelers Broncos game here. I think we should talk a little bit. We talked about the Broncos offensive line and talk about the defense. Do you have any keys to the game as going up against the Steelers, having watched them? Oh, and here it is. Yep. His girlfriend is 7 weeks pregnant. Well, congrats to you. Hopefully, maybe the Broncos 2042 first round pick at quarterback from Jay Roper coming down the tracks there.
So where were you? 40 weeks, 33 times 4, 8 months from now. So 7 months from now. So we'll have to remind us. That'll be, I can't even do that much math to figure out when that's going to be. Probably June. You look like a summer birthday or somewhere. So we'll be back here talking draft with Jay's baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Keys to this game. Pressure with your front four. I don't necessarily think you want to try and throw a bunch of blitzes at these guys. We can go on that and work off one key at a time, or I could give you another one that you might find a little more interesting. Is the Steelers will show you a lot of eye candy pre-snap on defense. So it's key that you make your reads correctly, because they're going to show 7 on the line and they may only send 4. I don't think they're that good with a 4-man rush. I don't think their front four right now is all that scary. They've got 8 sacks on the season so far, I believe, which puts them, bottom third of pressure. It's tough to get a feel for how a team does against Green Bay, because Aaron Rodgers, like Lamar Jackson, does stuff you can't scheme against. The way he can get a ball away with velocity and accuracy from all over the field. I think I've told you before that, one of the first, when I saw him carve up the Falcons in a playoff game where they put up 50 points, he was making throws on the run that if I was playing somebody in Madden, I would have said they found a glitch. I'm like, this game's ridiculous. You can't do that. That's not physically possible. I'm pissed off. He can. He's just special. So it's hard to judge the Pittsburgh Steelers pass rush against him. But over the course of the season, it hasn't been that scary. So your pre-snap reads are going to be key, because they're going to show you 7. They may bring 7, they may bring 6, but there's going to be a lot of movement pre-snap on the defense.
Yeah, no, that's a big one. I also just pouring over some of the stats. Through 4 games so far, Cameron Hayward, how many pressures do you think he has from an interior defensive line? It's 15. 15 pressures from the interior defensive lineman, Cameron Hayward. TJ Watt gets the chicks because they dig the sacks and whatnot. That sounds bad, worse than it is. But TJ Watt's obviously defensive player of the year, got the big contract, great edge rusher. But Cameron Hayward, 15 pressures from the interior defensive line, only 1 sack and only 1 hit, and 3 batted balls. But like those 15 pressures is pretty darn impressive from that interior defensive line. And he's their highest graded player. Pretty insane. He's actually got a 91.9 grade on the season. So that's amazing. So Cameron Hayward, good luck to whoever is playing guards for the Broncos in this game. Again, it's crazy how many good interior defensive linemen we've played.
Get some help.
Yeah.
Get some help for sure. Don't let him beat you.
Yep.
That's one of the keys is, pick out the top guy in there. And again, the problem is, and someone else said came in here, TJ Watt is Barak Nasi, I would think. Barak Nasi. Watt is going to be a big problem. He was fairly quiet for the most part against the Packers. And, I actually thought that he was at times even a liability on their front. So he was negated pretty well. He was usually coming in from the right. So at least you got Bowles. And Bowles, wouldn't you say Bowles has something he's got a makeup game coming?
He needs it. He has been disappointing this year. Not $1 million a game, $17 million a year. Pass protector. He's given up. He's giving up a sack a game. Now, part of that is on struggles of the rest of the offensive line. Part of that is quarterback holding onto the ball. But yeah, he's not played like a top 10 left tackle. And he's going to have to play better. And he said that after the game too. He's like, I've not been good enough. I need to do better. So hopefully we'll see that. But he's got to
And
play
he's the
better for
guy
sure.
that was stepping up and holding guys accountable in the preseason and really taking over a leadership. And you do that by example. When you're playing well, your words speak a lot more. So him taking ownership of that, saying, I haven't been playing, I need to be better. That means something. That's good.
Richie Rich is talking to I think pretty soon Richie Rich is going to be calling for some leather helmets on the field. He's talking about investing in the defensive tackles and getting pressure there. Now he's talking about running with a fullback, man. What year is it, Richie Rich? No,
Hell, I've joked the easiest way to get concussions out of this game is to take the helmets away. That'll never happen.
yeah,
It'll never happen again, but you don't see nearly as many concussions in rugby.
yeah.
Get the guys to stop using their heads like a weapon and you'll take concussions way down.
Yeah.
You might lose more teeth, break more noses, but guys will still be able to read and write when they're, 35 years old.
Yeah, I never could, so it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, if they could to begin with. I was setting myself up for that one.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your comment. Yeah, and Richie was saying he's a rugby player. I can tell the path. It's not the Australian rules football going on there. But I'm just giving you a hard time there. Yeah, he said his grandpa's a leatherhead too. The DWI guys coming back in, saying the key is Denver's offensive line cohesiveness as they will need it. This is the key to the game. I think the key to the game is more so the offensive line cohesiveness is big, but I'm going to say it's the Broncos pass rush getting after Big Ben. That is just such an overwhelming matchup on paper that could totally dictate the rest of the game. And, if you're getting Najee Harris with 20 targets and half of them behind the line of scrimmage, and you have 7 guys drop back that can pin their ears back then and rally to the football, that's going to make it pretty hard to do much of anything for the Steelers. You talk about people complaining about Teddy Bridgewater and the field being compressed because he doesn't throw the ball downfield or lacks the arm talent. This is really a big issue for the Steelers and Big Ben this season. So I agree with you. It is a big one, but I'm going to go with the Broncos front 4 and edge rushers, defensive linemen getting after the passer.
I think the defense is good enough to win this game, where even if it's a 17-9, I saw the over under on this game. I think it was 39.5.
Yeah.
That's about as low as you're going to see in an NFL game that I remember. I mean, I'm sure it's not the lowest. I'm not going to go there, but it's definitely on the low side, especially in this day and age. But DWI guys, I agree with you to this part. So it makes me wonder a little bit. Do you start even if everybody's healthy-ish? Do you start the same 5 guys, or are you bringing players back in to against the Steelers?
I think Reisiner's going to play. It does sound like he's training that way to be the left guard, and I think Miners actually has been. Even in the limited snaps, I've been more impressed with his run blocking than Reisner. But Reisner is a pretty darn solid pass protector. And I think with the struggles of Bulls right now and just how much more a bad pass rushing rep or a bad pass blocking rep can kill an offensive line, or it can kill an offensive drive, kill a game, where like one bad run blocking rep is not going to nearly hurt you as much.
Yeah, and maybe Bulls gets better with a healthy Reisner next to him.
Yep.
They're working together, and not just as cover, but just as someone that the word that the DWI guys used on his super chat was cohesiveness.
Synergy,
and there's teamwork in there. Those guys are a group. They're a unit for sure. And knowing what each guy's going to do under certain situations and twists, stunts, all those type of things, who's got blitz pickup, and trusting the guy next to you makes you more confident. We talk about how much this game is mental, and the confidence level in the guy next to you makes you a better player. So we'll see.
Yeah, and we got Shy asking, how many snacks do you think Von Miller will get? Von Miller is a specimen. I don't know how much snacking he does, but I'm hoping for at least a few sacks in this game, for sure. Broncos win even with Locke. I sure hope it is Teddy, though. If Locke plays, I really hope that the Locke just play within yourself, man. It's like that movie Hitch with Will Smith. It's like, this is your zone, man. Don't leave this. That's exactly what you need from the quarterback. Don't turn the ball over.
Never see that again.
It's not a great movie. But
I love the movie. No, I was talking about that whole scene.
Oh,
yes. I
Hitch,
love the movie.
Kevin James is pretty dorky.
Don't ever do that again. I actually really like that movie, but I'm a softie at heart, believe it or not. So
some rom-coms up in all on Scott's house. Vaughn gets 3 sacks. That would be amazing to see. Big Ben is getting the ball out really quickly, and he's not throwing it past the line of scrimmage very often. So maybe Vaughn isn't getting 3 sacks, but if you are able to get pressure quickly.
But would it surprise you? If you at the end of
Three
the day
sacks?
and you looked at the box scores and you saw Vaughn had 3 sacks, you'd be like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
I guess I would be surprised, just because 3 sacks is such an outlier in general, and at one point, like, once you got, like, 2, teams are like, "Okay, we're done with this. Somebody else beat us." So, it would be surprising. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but, I think that probably statistically speaking, it's not super likely. But, we'll see. The other point I wanted to get to with this team was Steelers
Little
pressure.
self-promotion
Oh,
here,
there we
sorry.
go. There we go. Y'all come to Scott's channel on
Ashton
Wednesdays.
saying, come to Scott's channel on Wednesdays. We'll drop that link in here shortly. Ashton, appreciate you. Jeremy's always there. US Dave. We got a lot of Broncos guys on Wednesdays. And we keep it a little shorter. We go about 30 minutes on Wednesdays.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got Money Moore saying Javonte Williams is due for a breakout game. I hope the Broncos just lean into this, protect Teddy, protect the offensive line, and run the ball efficiently. Now, maybe that'll be hard against the Steelers. Chris Wormley, you mentioned, had been playing really good. I liked him a lot coming out of Michigan.
Michigan.
Yep, Michigan. I really hated the DeMarcus Walker pick because I loved Larry Ogunjobi and Chris Wormley. And I guess DeMarcus Walker's gone now, so I can spill a little bit of juice. I don't know if this will get me in trouble, but the Broncos actually messed up in the war room when that happened. They had the old school names on the board, and somebody took names off of there that were still in the draft pool, and the Broncos were scrambling like, we got to take our best defensive linemen. I think they had Wormley and Ogunjobi higher, and they were still available, but they were off the board, their board. Yeah,
because someone had the eraser on accident or the magnet.
Yep, somebody messed up.
Those are the kind of things you just can't plan for. There's got to be redundancies and backups built in. Man, I'm gonna have my notebook, and by God, I'm gonna have several copies printed out, and we're gonna ask who's left on your board. You've been in fantasy football drafts, for God's sakes. This guy's still available? No. All right, shoot, I missed that.
Yep.
Something. Good Lord.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, these guys are professionals, a billion-dollar industry. They're not going to make mistakes. Once, at least for the position I'm in, going from, fan to covering the team and talking to people in the organization, pulling back the curtain's a little bit eye-opening sometimes. And that one was like, woof. Big mistake. That guy did not last. We made the mistake. But anyway, moving on. I don't know if I was supposed to share that story, but DeMarcus Walker's come and gone. So it is what it is. I do think this is a big bounce back game also for Patrick Surtain. I did not think he had the best game last week against the Ravens, and a part of that was probably schematic, playing soft. But you were a bigger Surtain guy coming into the draft than I was. I'm still a fan, obviously, but my biggest concern with him was, as a top 10 cornerback, I need somebody who has incredible click and close. Like my prototype, and this is maybe showing my age a little bit, but for the last 5 years, my favorite cornerback I've scouted, this is pre Jalen Ramsey too, is Marshawn Lattimore. Great speed, length, loose hips, amazing click and close. I think Surtain is an incredibly great cornerback. I don't know if he is as oily in the hips as a Marshawn Lattimore. He's much more, I think he's just a little stiffer, and I don't think he has the same click and close.
And for me in this class, I didn't see that guy. I didn't necessarily see that guy as opposed to, the shutdown guy. I mean, remember, my favorite corner of all time played in Atlanta is Deion Sanders. He wouldn't break an egg,
Yeah.
So there, you want to talk about being able to just lock somebody up. Primetime was the epitome of a cover corner.
Yeah.
I would still probably say, but if I'm ranking them, I'd still take Rod Woodson a little higher because I don't think anybody was as good in coverage as Deion. Rod Woodson was more complete. So Surtain isn't. I don't want anybody. The first play I took issue with this when he got benched. I'm like, what kind of scheme do you have your corner chasing a guy 50 yards across the field? That's a blown coverage. That's not necessarily a scheme. So I like him. I like him as a press and turn, a press and release. I want him physical with his guys. I want him jamming his guys. And again, as you mentioned, part of the scheme is working. And you can't have everything shut down. I can't have Von Miller getting 5 sacks and Draymond Jones getting 5 sacks and all these guys getting – something's got to give. So if he's playing a little softer and he's giving up some yardage, but you're still number 2 by a big margin in points giving up, something's working. Yeah. But can he do better? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think he can be used better as well.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you there. Oh, we got Paris in here. Good morning, Paris. So can we please admit that our defensive ends are soft, weak, and not good much at all? These are just guys who make things happen here and there. 4 games already and no defensive line sacks based on skill. Paris, man, I don't know what you're
That's
seeing with.
harsh.
Yeah, that is harsh.
Shots fired.
Let's get some good vibes going. I think you need to go back and watch Draymond Jones. Draymond Jones has been pretty darn good this season, and it's stuff that is not always showing up in the stat sheet. But he is altering plays and creating issues in the backfield for defensive teams. He's firing off the ball extremely well. He's looked like he's added strength to his hands, especially before he was a little bit more finesse, I would say, but he's starting to add more power to his game. And he's been impressive. Now the thing is, if your expectations for the interior defensive line are week to week Aaron Donald, that's not happening. Like he's a freak of his own. It's kind of like, you have a power hitter in baseball and you get upset at them for not hitting a home run every game. It's like, well, it's not happening. That's not the position. That's not a realistic ask for that position. But Draymond Jones overall has been extremely good. I've been disappointed with Shelby Harris's pass rush. Again, we talked about it earlier, and if you're just joining us now, Paris, you can circle back later, but I do wonder how much of it is schematic, really asking those guys to hold their own in the run game to free up those linebackers so that you can drop up more guys in space, get more depth from your linebackers in space as well. But it is something that I'm looking at as well. The guy on the defensive line who's bothered me the most is not any of the interior defensive linemen. It's not Von Miller. It's Malik Reed. Malik Reed has had more one-on-ones than any. I think he has the third highest rate of one-on-one blocks of any edge rusher in football so far this season, and his pass rush win rate for edge rusher is bottom 5. So that means he's not altering you schematically, and while he is getting some pressures and sacks, a lot of that is scheme-oriented because they're not respecting him as much. So Malik Reed, especially because he's an edge rusher, the whole thing is freeing up those guys to get after the quarterback. He needs to be better.
Yeah, and Paris, we hit on this early about the interior line, and Mike Purcell, I think, has done a pretty good job in the middle. And his job's not. You mentioned ends, so
Yeah.
you did say ends, to be fair.
Yeah.
But Purcell, I don't expect a bunch of sacks from your 3-4 nose guard. His job is to take on 2 blockers and hold them there and let your linebackers fly to the ball. And Nick has a great call out here with those stats saying, if you can get one-on-one with your outside linebackers / your defensive ends, that is what the scheme is meant to do. Your job as a coach is to set your players up to make plays, to put them in the best position to make plays. If I can get Von Miller one-on-one with a tackle, I'm going to win. If I can do the same thing on the other side, I should win. But that's where I didn't know that, so I love it. That Malik Reed, he needs to do better, and this is where Bradley Chubb is being missed right now for sure.
Yeah. Same thing with Malik Reed last year, unfortunately, but it is what it is. We'll get Bradley Chubb at some point back, and hopefully he's healthy. And also, we're going to need him because he's probably going to come back in that after the bye week, and the Broncos play the Raiders once, the Chargers twice, and the Chiefs twice in that 7 games or 6 games after the bye week. So that's quite the gauntlet of teams there, and you're going to need your pass rush fully healthy. So we'll see. And Paris saying Draymond hasn't shown much getting in the backfield, making tackles here and there. I don't know, man. I don't know. Watch the tape is kind of a cop out, but he's been pretty impressive to me. I think he's top 20 in pressures from the interior defensive line, and that's somewhat being hampered by the scheme as well, because they're not just asking him to pin his ears back. So
yeah, and I'd like to dig into those stats and compare them to other 3-4 ends. You can say top 20, but again, a 3-4 end, his job is to free up the backer next to him, to free up Von Miller. Is he doing his job in that case? Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. If you've got to take 2 guys, if you can get single blocking on Von Miller's going to have a career year, and he's going to go take Draymond Jones out to dinner if he's playing next to him.
Yeah, and Draymond Jones so far this year, again, it's Pro Football Focus grade, so maybe not the end-all, be-all for everybody, but he's number 5 in the NFL so far in run defense, which from the kind of skinnier Draymond Jones is pretty impressive. And I think he is top 20 in pass rush, so he's been pretty good from that position. So maybe some of that is playing next to Von Miller too, right? You're talking about synergy in the offensive line. If you can play a great interior defensive line or a solid interior defensive lineman next to a Hall of Fame edge rusher, It's going to be a little easier for that interior defensive lineman. But I think he's far from the issue. I have a bigger issue with right now. It's Malik Reed, who I think I've always said it on here. He's somebody who you're okay starting, but you love as your first edge rusher off the bench. That's where I think he thrives.
Yeah, let him come in as a super sub with fresh legs, and do one job, not have to think about much else, because the numbers. What do you have? 8 sacks, led the team last year. But you were quick to point out to me that there's more to it than that. He should have had 16. Should have had 16 sacks with the type of situations he was being in. That he got 8 was something that, again, said it before. You can't stop everything. You can't do everything. They were willing to take their chances. Teams were willing to take their chances one-on-one with Malik Reed. And so far, it's working.
Yeah, I agree with you. We'll see what happens.
Good, because it was your point.
Moving forward. Yeah. We also got Derek Player coming in here saying, is this week a must-win? You're 3-1 right now. I don't think it's a must-win game. If anything, it's a must-win game for the Steelers, being 1-3, and the Ravens winning, the Browns looking like a Super Bowl contender. Although I just saw that Baker Mayfield has a pretty serious shoulder injury that he's dealing with right now. So we'll see about that. Maybe he'll play through it, but it's causing him some issues. But is this week a must-win? I think the Broncos, it's as much of a must-win game as a non-must-win game can be. How's that for an answer?
It's a must response. You've got to see the fire back. They hung their tail. They tucked their tails last week a little bit. They got beat. You need a response. What is this team made of? Are you going to come back and come out swinging, win or lose? Are you going to come out swinging? Are you going to fight back? Because they had the fight taken out of them last week. And that is what has to change. Win or loss, still one game, 17-game season. You're still 3-2. Anything can turn. So, no, it's not a must-win game, but you got to see a response. That's what has to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough game, and I don't want to say it's a must-win, but like the schedule really, really, really ramps up after this running into the bye, because you got Vegas, who is playing great football right now. I know they just lost.
Other teams are going to have their dips and valleys too, based on injuries and things
just
you don't see.
Sometimes you're just going to lay an egg. I mean, I'll never forget the God, I think they were undefeated at the time. And this might have been back in mid 2010s, where the Packers were undefeated and they went to Kansas City playing the worst team in football that year. The Kansas City Chiefs ended up, so it must have been 2012. And the Packers went in there and lost to Kansas City at Arrowhead when the Kansas City ended up getting the number 1 overall pick in the draft.
Falcons almost went to Kansas City and should have beat them last year.
Yeah,
it happens.
Dropped.
These are the difference between the teams is it can happen on any given day. And again, you're one big injury away for a lot of these teams from your season going completely differently.
Yep. Totally agree. Well, guys, speaking of things going totally differently, we got to get out of here, whatever that means. But gotta fly. I got to go take care of the dog because the wife has to start doing some stuff today, and the dog needs to be supervised because otherwise he is going to mess with his undercarriage.
We don't need to talk about that. There's certain subjects we just don't need to talk about. That's one of them.
All right. Well, got to go hang out with the dog, but love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. Obviously, you can find Scott and myself on Twitter, Scott at Scout Kennedy, and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at Huddle Up Pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you guys are joining us on Facebook today, please go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Join us there, tag us there, continue the conversation there. We love to do that. If you're joining us on YouTube today, please subscribe, like, and share. It means a lot to us. And also go to Scott's channel, youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Thank you to everybody who joined us today, contributed in the chat, and donated stars, etc., etc. Obviously, not everybody's in a position to do that all the time. So just joining us and hanging out with us in the morning means a lot to us. Obviously, extra shout out to those who did contribute, but not always the time and place to do that. So we appreciate you guys. Scott, what's the rest of your day look like?
I might check out some World Cup qualifiers tonight.
Hey,
some international stuff, some games that start to matter. The U.S. plays Jamaica tonight. You can get in 60 minutes of that game before Thursday night football kicks off, and then I'll also see most of y'all in the chat tonight for it's Thursday, so it's still Huddle Up Pod. So I'll see y'all tonight in the chat.
Yeah, and is tonight Seahawks? I can't even remember who plays Thursday night tonight. Either way, it'll be a good game. October 7th. Oh yes. Okay, I need to get home before that. Otherwise, traffic's going to be terrible. Rams at Seahawks. Probably the best Thursday night game we've had on paper yet so far this year.
And Peter coming in strong. Peter's closing us. Peter's coming with the closer tonight. Give us some applause on Facebook, and coming in strong with the Stars to finish us up. So I recognize a lot of these names, and I will see a lot of y'all tonight. I'll be in the chat behind the scenes, so can't wait to see you.
All right, everyone. We'll see you later. I'll see you guys Saturday for Mile High Insiders, hopefully celebrating a Hawkeye win. And everyone stay safe and go Broncos.